All right, everybody, welcome back to the Bung Pod. I'm your host, Ian King, aka Wine Wonder Boy, and I got my co-host with me, Jazzy. She's here. And we have an awesome guest today, a personal friend of mine and Jazz's. She's doing awesome things. She's a rep for Crew Selections, and we are fellow wine education people. We did the same program. Welcome, Bree Davis.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. So today we're going to be talking mostly about sustainability.
It's a big topic.
Sustainability in wines. But first, let's get to the wines that we're going to be drinking on the pod.
Yes.
I brought a sustainable wine. It's from Santa Barbara, from Santa Rita Hills. Pinot Noir from John Sebastiano Vineyard from Storm Wines. I'm a big fan of Storm. Shout out Ernst Storm and Axel Kleinmeyer, friends of mine. So I have that. And then you brought?
I brought Lobo Hills Sauv Blanc. I actually brought several wines. We decided on this one because it's a great Washington wine, and he's sustainability is a big thing for him, but he's also just a low intervention, hands-off winemaker.
That's cool.
And I love that he's trying really hard. In his mind, he's not competing with Washington, he's competing with Europe.
I like that.
I think that's really
how
cool.
That's how you should be.
Yeah.
Focusing.
And his wines are all vegan. So
Okay.
for people who are concerned about that.
Oh, nice. So it doesn't put egg whites in it, anything. That's for Jasmine. And then you can take yours. And then I have my glass here. We don't have matching ones, but it's fine.
Wow.
It's fine.
You
fine.
fancy.
Yeah, I'm fancy. I'm fancy, huh? Well, you fancy, huh? Yeah, sustainability. So does that fall under the organic biodynamic tier, or is it kind of a tier before that?
It's a tier before that, but the tiers blend all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I've gathered as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, it's one of those topics that you have to have degree upon degree in each area of the world to fully understand what it is that all entails.
Yeah.
And then when you add to that, because they're generic terms, it's almost like when you, if you labeled a food diet, what does that mean?
Right.
Did you take something out of it? Does it mean it's actually good for you? Does it mean it's just lower calorie? Is it,
Yeah.
So people get, they know that's a good word. They know it's a buzzword. Well, what is it? What it actually means depends on where the wine is being made, where the grapes are being grown, what the laws are there, what that looks like. Like Oregon has some certifications for sustainability that really require a lot of attention be paid towards salmon habitats, things like that. Well, you're not going to see that in Europe.
Yeah.
But then the other piece is you start to get them looped together, and you get government agencies that start to say, well, to be called sustainable, you have to have this sort of certification, and it costs this much money, and it's this many levels, and
you have to do all these things to do it, and
get
approved, and
jump through these hoops, and have these inspections. So increasingly, there are a lot of wineries, not just in the United States and Pacific Northwest, but in Europe too, who are thumbing their nose at that. Yeah. And they are doing things that are more sustainable in terms of growing their grapes, are more natural and more biodynamic in the practices than the certifications call for.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily have the stamp.
Yeah. That's how Carhartt was, or I think still is, Carhartt Wines in Santa Barbara. Like when I was working there, a lot of people would ask. I mean, California in general, they're all really big on sustainable, because they don't have certain things. Like up here in Washington, we have shit tons of water. That's something that they don't have, and they don't get regularly. And so, yeah, being environmentally conscious is a huge thing in California. And I feel like most of the vineyards, at least in Santa Rita Hills, most of them are sustainable, if not organic and biodynamic.
I can see that.
Yeah, so that's like a huge thing for them. And also the use of things like Roundup in the vineyard that, it's a shortcut, but it also over time kills your soil, and it it washes out into other things like drinking water or the ocean or lakes, you know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it sits in the soil. So it doesn't matter how long it hasn't been raining for. Once it rains, it's going to wash out anyways, because it all will, it solidifies and then it'll go back into that water form, just like any like proxy or sulfur, like SO2, it gets into a solid form, but once you put water on it, it goes back into liquid. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic. And I know I took the viticulture certification at WSU, and sustainability was not a topic.
It wasn't. Yeah.
So,
even when I took it a couple of years ago,
it was not
even close.
Yeah. And when I moved up here to Washington, after working in the California wine industry for so long, I was actually very surprised how little wineries I've found actually care about sustainability. I wonder if that has to do with the idea, like in your mind, like, oh, we don't have certain resources, therefore we have to take care of what we do have, like California for water. But then once you live in an area of abundance of resources, they don't take care of it as much, or they're not focused on taking care of it as much. Do you think that is part of it? Or
I definitely, especially with the water, like here we have the lake.
Yeah.
And that's glacier fed every single year. So for us, we see it rise come July 4th. It's full and we know we have water.
Yeah.
And then that goes into the river and the Columbia, you know, that's a huge AVA right there.
Yeah.
And goes all the way down.
Yeah.
And I think because we see it, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Especially for water.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to something like sustainability, it's such a broad term.
Yeah.
That I think it probably matters to people more in all of the other decisions they're making than to just say we're sustainable. At this point, it's almost a marketing term, more so than an operational term.
Yeah.
Especially because if you're looking at terms like organic and biodynamic, those can be both applied to the viticulture process, but also the winemaking process. Sustainability is almost entirely just applying to how the grapes are grown and farmed, like the farming side of things.
Even though in the sustainable, like to get approved for it, they talk about how you're treating your employees, how I mean, it's so broad that it's not just, are we putting Roundup in our vineyard? It's, okay, are you doing this, this, and this for your employees? Are you giving them the resources and all this stuff? I mean, and even down to like, are you giving them healthcare? So, I mean, it is a very, very broad topic.
Well, and if you apply it to something like wine, the way that grapes grow best, it varies grape to grape, but is in a situation where they're being starved a little bit. If they have too much in terms of nutrients and water and natural resources and things, they're not going to be as flavorful.
Yeah.
And so you have to be growing them in a place where there's some want there.
Yeah.
And so to be able to keep growing them, you have to do basic sustainability practices to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And, I don't know anything about the actual science of farming the grapes past what it takes to just, I understand the basics of it, but there are truly experts in every area of that. And when I've spoken with those people, I've heard time and time again that there are things that are on the approved list for organic that are every bit as horrifying as Roundup.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Totally.
when you have 1,000 decisions to make about how to grow the best fruit for the best wine, for the best marketing, for the best whatever, sustainability is more of it's equal parts way of life and marketing gimmick. But, in my job, we also represent this one cidery out on the Olympic Peninsula. And the Olympic Peninsula is such a place of abundant natural resources, but very low population.
Yeah.
So to be able to run a business out there and support economically is incredibly challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular farm uses practices of sustainability and biodynamic farming and organic farming, partly because they really believe in it, but also partly as an economic tool to support their community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when decisions like these are made, if someone is advertising things as sustainable, it's more a little bit about the belief system that they're applying their overall approach to, versus if you get into organic and biodynamic, you're telling somebody a little bit more about what's in the bottle and less about the actual wine itself.
All right, guys, let's take a break for a minute, because if you enjoy this podcast, I have some amazing news for you. Do you want more content from us? Extra episodes per week? Discounts every time we drop some dope-ass merch? Do you want your opinions, hot takes, and topics to be covered on the podcast and be a producer on the show? That's right. We want your opinions. We want your personal hot takes. Join the Bung Pod Jabroni Gang and get your voice heard on the show. Just head to patreon.com/official Bung Pod and talk to us. Link is in the description. Now let's get back to the show.
Because that's going to be more winemaking practices.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend a lot on where it's grown. Like places like Bordeaux or we don't have a lot of vineyards out in Western Washington, but places, and there's a few places in California too, where things are damper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to be,
Hitting the ocean.
yeah, there are places you're going to have to spray to keep the mildew down. You're just going to have to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Otherwise, you're going to have no, one of the
It's
wines.
like Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Totally.
Where this comes from, Santa Rita Hills, super foggy. It's a weird microclimate within Santa Barbara and California in general, because it's so much further south than like Sonoma and Napa.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much marine layer fog that comes in from the ocean that sits in the vines. And so it protects the vines, from sun. And some people dry farm there as well. I know in Paso Robles, Talbot's Creek, they dry farm everything over there. And that place doesn't get much rain. But their vines most of their vines have been there for a long time. And so the roots have an anchor. It's already found a water source. Most of them have. And their wine is absolutely phenomenal. Like the concentration, the fruit, they make light styled wines. So it's lighter in body. But there's so much flavor and complexity involved. And that's kind of my shit.
That's your thing.
That's my shit.
Well, and they, there's a vineyard on Crete called Loire that set out to bring back a couple of grapes native to Crete specifically, but Greece in general, that had essentially gone extinct because Greece tried to do what everybody was doing and plant popular grape varietals.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That it's not
market.
Bordeaux. They're not going to grow. It's like you can't grow
do that.
those grapes very well in Crete.
Yeah.
And so they're bringing back some of those classic to Greece varietals, and they're doing it organically, and they're doing it biodynamically, and they're following all of those rules and practices. And it's one of those old family vineyards where the land is paid for, and the mechanical needs are paid for, and they can do that because what's happening is there are years that they get a third the yield that they would have gotten if they would have applied chemicals and other in other things. But that family, it's super important to them and some of the other farmers that they work with, it's super important to them to do this, so to speak, the old way. But it's a huge financial hit.
Oh, it's crazy, dude. Greece is such a gnarly spot for wine. It's so nuts because like Santorini for Assyrtiko, like the way they grow their vines, because there's so much wind that comes there, it grows in baskets on the ground.
So
So it's fucking insane.
They
you
don't
want to
look
hear
like
something?
grapes.
They don't look like a grapevine. It just looks like a wicker basket
yeah.
almost with like grapes in the middle.
So I may or may not be going there next year.
Oh, wow. Take a tour of some vineyards.
Duh.
It's wild.
Write that bitch off.
I mean, most people when they go to Santorini, they don't think about going to the vineyards at all.
No, I'm
Like, they're
definitely.
like-
We're going on a cruise, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
oh,
I
we're
know
gonna
what
stay at
I'm
the
doing.
resort, you know, next to the ocean, and which is beautiful.
Yeah.
But like, go to the vineyards, dude. Like,
I'm so excited. I was even thinking about flying in early and going and just taste.
yeah.
Like,
It's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
I used to be, I didn't poo-poo Greek wine, but it's not, I didn't have any exposure to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys know how much, whether you want it to or not, your palate changes tremendously when
Yeah.
you're exposed to a lot of wine.
Yeah.
And the more Greek wine that I have, that's very well done, the more I like it.
Yeah.
But it is very different.
Yeah.
It is not the same as anything people have had if they're used to
Mm-hmm.
drinking classic Western Europe and
Yeah.
New World wines. It's
Yeah.
just not like that at all.
It's not like, I mean, Assyrtiko is so easy to like. If you like
Everybody
white
would like
wines,
that.
like, because it's so light in body, it's so acid driven. There's no weird phenolic flavors in it. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful wine for like the summertime, or
Mhm.
you know. And
I've
then-
given that to friends who've asked for a Pinot Grigio and they thought I gave them a Pinot Grigio.
yeah. It would be hard to tell Pinot Grigio, Gruner Veltliner, Assyrtiko, and Albariño. Those four would be so difficult in a blind tasting to actually nail down.
Depending on where they're from.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I
if
can
you go
see that.
classic,
Mhm.
it's hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Unless you can, like for Albariño, if you can detect that hint of sea spray that comes and Ria Spicious, then you
And,
could probably
and it's
get
Ria
that.
Spicious.
Yeah.
But if it's Santa Rita Hills,
Yeah. Then it's gonna be fucking hard.
it's, yeah.
Yeah. If it's Santa Rita Hills, it's gonna taste salty
Mhm.
and like, yeah, very salty because of that fog ocean layer. So this Pinot Noir has like olive tapenade, kind of salty flavors into it. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about the Lobo Hills Sauvignon Blanc real quick.
I want to tell you about this wine.
All right, let's
and
talk about
here's
it.
why. Because much like you and I, but probably on an even greater degree, Tony Dollar, and he would not be upset to hear me say this, is a huge wine nerd.
Yeah,
And he is
that's cool.
perfectly happy to try crazy things and see if they work.
I love
I would
that.
love to have him
I love that.
as a guest on the pod at some
Well,
point.
he is
That'd be
going to be coming
fun.
through here
Really?
at some point. So
No
I'll
way.
see. Yeah, we're setting it up. So we'll see
Oh,
if
yeah.
we can
Oh,
You're
get him to
supposed to
come
go
through.
like this.
Yeah, you're supposed to tap your glasses and need some more.
And be
I mean,
super
somebody's gonna make a
obnoxious and be
toast.
like, I'm empty.
Thank you, sir. So this delightful wine right here, which is one of my favorite Sauv Blancs, domestic Sauv Blancs, is they're clean. He washes them, but he puts rocks from the vineyard where they're grown
Mhm.
in the bottom of the fermenting tanks.
Oh, really?
That's so cool. Wait, that's actually fun. I'm glad that he
Yeah.
does. That's what winemakers should do, is stop doing the same thing over and over again, but even just take a small portion of just experiment. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't try it, nobody else is going to try it. That's how we
Yeah.
got to where we are today, is people took chances.
Right. And he's thinking about when he's thinking about a Sauv Blanc, he's not thinking about a New Zealand Sauv Blanc. He's thinking about a Northern French Sauv Blanc and
Sancerre
a Sancerre or Pouilly-Fumé or something like that. And he's like, what is that going to be like? Where are
Yeah.
those flavors coming from? What am I
Yeah.
looking for there? And when he thinks of those notes, he's like, well, it's going to have that minerality. Well, how
Yeah.
am I going to get that minerality out of this?
Yeah.
Well, let's put
Throw
some
some
minerals
rocks in the
right in it. And his Chenin Blanc, similarly, he does a thing with oyster shells.
Oh, fuck.
Really?
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh my god.
I know.
Huh.
I dug around to see if I had a Chenin, but
Wow.
I had
Oh,
some
how
customers
fun.
take that
I
one.
really want to have this guy on. I want to talk to this guy.
Yeah, that would be
You do
so
want to talk
interesting.
to this guy. And then in a stroke of marketing genius, so saith everyone who's ever tried to sell Merlot to anyone in recent years. His Merlot-based red blend is called Right Bank Blend.
Beautiful.
He did not put the word Merlot
Smart.
on the front of the bottle.
Good idea.
Anywhere.
Good idea.
That's so funny.
Genius.
Smart. Very smart. Wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Wicked
And
smart.
I won't steal his thunder in case he's on the pod, to tell the story of where the Lobo Hills name and logo and everything came from, because it is a great story. But
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
when
him
I've heard
telling
people
it.
ask him, he always starts it by talking about how most wineries classically, in his desire to model himself after Europe, would be named after the family that owns it.
Mhm.
But his name is Tony Dollar. So he asks everyone, would you buy dollar wines? That's a fair point. So he had to come up with a different name. But yes, he's
This
phenomenal.
is
He has a-
delicious too.
it's fantastic. He's the second label, where a lot of times when a winery has a second label, it's like I hate to say the word lesser, because that's not a less complex tier.
Yeah.
They put a little bit less into it,
Mhm.
into making it. His is the other. He decided his second label was going to be the more exclusive,
More elevated.
a little bit more
I like
elevated.
that. I
And-
think that's smart.
Yeah.
And that line is called Anthony Sellers. And,
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's
That's
fantastic.
what Seth Kitsky did.
Did he?
Yeah, with Devil is a Liar. So Devil is a Liar is Grenache,
Okay.
and it's his high-end Grenache. And so you can only buy it in 3-packs. I think there might be like a 6-pack, but it's like he bought these certain barrels for it. They have like a tap on it.
Oh, you're
You can-
kidding.
yeah. At least that's what it looks like from the pictures I've seen.
Who was
Like
telling
wooden
me
tap
this?
almost. And he gets it from Weather Eye Vineyards. And it's not always 100% Grenache. Sometimes he puts some Syrah in there. I think there's a small percentage of Syrah, maybe like 10 up to 10%, something like that. But it is a phenomenal Grenache. I had it with my friend Charlie Liebecker from Cardis, and he brought that out and tasted it. It's expensive, like it's high end.
It's expensive,
and
but
every
that's
detail,
good.
like the bottle silhouette
Mhm,
is really intricate, and the label on it
mhm,
is textured,
mhm.
right? And like
Oh, that's so
there's so
cool.
much
I
detail
love that.
that goes into it. And The Devil is a Liar, that is a fucking great name. I know Seth is a big fan of hip hop. He grew up on hip hop,
Mhm.
just like me. And so when I saw Devil is a Liar, I was like, oh, that's an ode to like Rick Ross, because he has a song called Devil is a Liar, which is a fucking phenomenal song. So I was like, oh, this is dope. But I love it when people do the next like elevated tier
Mhm.
of
Yes.
wine and put so much detail and creativity and artistry with every portion from like where they get the grapes from to like the label design to the bottle silhouette, everything. It looks so cool.
See, that's why I think I like how he put rocks in his wine, is because wine is just a recipe, it's an art, and people get comfortable doing the same thing. Like, oh, that wine sold that year, I should do it again.
Yeah.
Which you can do, but at the same time, you're also a scientist. You have an art to this. Like,
Yeah.
you know what you should and shouldn't do. Obviously, you're not going to put like tomatoes in it, or I don't know,
Yeah.
some random thing. But play with your wine. Get artsy. I
Get
mean, that's
nerdy.
why you're
Nerd
in.
the fuck out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might be scary, but then
Yeah. I mean, that's
Or
what
it
I
might
think
be
Morgan Lee at Two
amazing.
Vintners, he did a skin contact, I think it's Gewürztraminer. No. Sorry, Morgan, if you're listening to this. I don't remember. I think it's Gewürztraminer.
He has an orange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an orange wine, skin contact Gewürztraminer, and it is dry, not sweet at all. It's lean, no phenolic bitterness. I'm like, this is the best orange wine I've ever had in my life. Usually I don't gravitate towards those because it's just like a weird, most orange wines I've had have a weird phenolic bitterness at the end that I can't fucking stand. But I've had two that I've really liked. One was That was the second one I liked. The first one was a place in Paso that my friend was assistant winemaker for, and they're like an Italian. So they did, this great variety. You can help me on this. All right, guys, let's take a break for a minute, because if you enjoy this podcast, I have some amazing news for you. Do you want more content from us? Extra episodes per week? Video podcasts? Discounts every time we drop some dope-ass merch? Do you want your opinions, hot takes, and topics to be covered on the podcast and be a producer on the show? That's right. We want your opinions. We want your personal hot takes. Join the Bung Pod Jabroni Gang and get your voice heard on the show. Just head to patreon.com/official Bung Pod and talk to us. Link is in the description. Now let's get back to the show. Falangina.
No, that is the one that I'm thinking of.
Oh, that's the same one?
Yeah, but
Falangina.
I've never had it.
So yeah, it was, Falangina they made it into an orange wine, and that was the first orange wine I've had. And I was like, oh, orange wine's fucking amazing.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I had a bunch of other ones. I was like, fuck orange wine after that. I was like, man, like the Falangina one, that was the only one that I actually
When did you have that?
liked.
Where was it?
It was in Paso.
Okay.
It's a really small winery in Paso, in Tin City is what it's called. But I don't remember the label name offhand. It's something Italian, but anyway,
So
they do a great job there.
And you had a front row seat for this, you'll understand it. I have stopped saying I don't like this type of wine or this grape.
Yeah.
Unless if I do catch myself saying that sentence, I try to add the word yet, because
Yeah. I haven't
Yeah,
had a
it
good
changes so
representation
much.
of it yet.
yeah, or it could be my palate. It could be the representations I've had.
Yeah.
It could be either of those things. But just simply for the number of times I have poured a wine for someone who insists they don't like that grape, and it's because they just haven't had a good version of it yet.
Yeah.
But I struggle with the orange wines I've had.
Yeah.
There's a producer, a very small batch producer out of I think she's out of Woodinville, Essia.
Yeah.
Icelandic family,
Yeah.
just very cool. She has
Tanya.
they have
Tanya.
she has an orange wine that I liked more than I thought I would. I was like, okay, all right.
Dude, her Grenache from Stillwater Creek is fucking amazing.
Mhm.
Fuck it. I want to have her on the pod too.
And that's what I say. I love her wine. I love her
Yeah.
winemaking style. I love what she's doing. So I said, okay, well, we'll get there. I'll
Yeah.
try some more. But it's there. I mean, there's
Baby steps.
some of it's exposure,
But it's also finding it.
Yeah.
but then some of it is whenever something becomes popular,
Mhm.
everyone does it. They don't do it well. And there are a lot of people out there right now who are making bad orange wine because it's a little bit trendy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Just like pet nats because it's trendy. And
Yeah, and then it gives a bad name to those styles of wine, which I've had some really awesome pet nats.
Right.
And I've had some awesome orange wines.
thank you, Dusty and Riley.
Who are they?
Who are Dusty and Riley? Oh, everyone in Washington at least should know Dusty and Riley. They
Oh,
are
okay.
besties, right?
Yeah.
They are Sonder and Sage Rat, respectively.
Oh, there's Sonder. Okay.
And they have
Oh.
a combined project that's a carbonic Nebbiolo.
Oh.
Sounds like my shit right there.
That is
Yeah. That is right.
I saved one for you and I told
Yeah.
you I had it, but you got to drink those quick.
Yeah.
And we didn't get together to
Yeah.
drink it quick, so
Yeah.
it didn't happen, but I'll get you another one when it comes out.
Maybe when I meet the Sonder peeps.
Yeah.
That would be
they're-
really fun.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal. And speaking of our whole sustainability organic thing,
Mhm.
those guys do all the right stuff
Yeah.
when it comes to that kind of thing. They are very all natural, low intervention. You can tell looking at their wines. A lot of times in America, especially, we think we look at a cloudy wine and we think that's a bad wine. And,
Yeah. Oh,
and
gosh,
it's
yeah.
really nice to just see people moving away from fining a lot.
Yeah.
Or,
Unfiltered,
weird.
unfined.
yeah, we're talking about Tony Dollar and his style.
Raw
and
dog
it's a lot of the reason he does a lot of the like throw rocks in the tank and stuff like that is because he's determined to not put anything into the wine that wasn't already there.
I like
Which
that.
is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and more people are using natural yeasts, but some of that depends on where you live. Like,
Yeah,
you're going to
totally.
have to supplement. A lot of people are going to have to supplement their yeast depending on where they're making wine, but
I know that
minimal.
Sandy wines in Santa Rita Hills, they started making their own yeast out of each.
Like
so
growing it from
through the vineyards.
Cool.
So
wow,
it's really cool.
That's the most Raj thing I've ever heard.
Raj does, yeah.
I could have
Also
guessed who was
Sashi.
doing that.
I think it's mostly Sashi Mormon now because Raj moved to Cambria and he started his own thing called Phelan Farms.
He's got an entire farm situation going on.
He does. And I heard a recent podcast that he was on, like an update on like what he's doing and stuff. He's like, yeah, I'm just loving, farming. It's been fun. Like it's all biodynamic and
I heard that podcast too. I can't remember who was interviewing him. It might have been on Som. It might have been the Som TV podcast.
It could be the Som TV podcast.
I think
I think I can hear. I think I can hear him in my head going, "You're doing what?"
Yeah. Yeah. Jason Wise.
Yeah. He was so confused. What are you doing?
He's like, what are you doing, dude?
Is that working? Not really.
I'm figuring it out. I got a bunch of goats. I want to get some more goats.
Yeah, that is definitely that's the same interview.
I have some dogs. I have some Pyrenees mountain dogs out here.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
That's so funny.
But I mean, Tawas Creek is another one. Like they're the one that does the pick pool. They're the one in Paso that do the dry farming. They are huge into biodynamics. And they have a shepherd who's on salary just at the fucking winery. And I used to be a wine club member there. I'm sad I'm not right now, but I used to go to their wine club parties because I was in Santa Barbara. I was like, it's not too far away. It's like, a couple hour drive, whatever. Let's go. And their wine club party, they're like, we have a huge announcement to make. We have 2 additions to our winery, and we're all so very excited. They brought these 2 Spanish Mastiff dogs.
Yes.
And so they already have like 3 Pyrenees mountain dogs. But he's like, we got these Spanish Mastiffs. They're going to look over a flock. They have like sheep and goats. And
that's going to be me one day.
It's so funny.
Just me with all my chickens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And how much detail they put into every little thing at the winery is just so fucking amazing. Like I really respect people that just look into the detail in every single part of it, from the growing to bottling to everything. Like it's amazing.
And it's the more I haven't been in this world long enough to not still have incredibly fluid opinions about everything.
Yeah.
Because I learn every experience, I take something else away from it, or something morphs or changes a little bit. And I have a deep love and appreciation for the natural low intervention side of things. But at the same time, I have a lot of respect for, better living through science, right? And there's a balance to be struck.
Absolutely.
But one of my favorite things I've ever seen in my life that's a natural solution this fall, but while there's still fruit on the vines, I was in one of the vineyards that's owned by Valdemar Estates, and it's on. I think it was.
I love Valdemar. They're great.
They're amazing, and I'm trying to remember. I'd screw up if I said where it was. I think it might have, because we went. They took us to a few, and I'm trying to remember which one this was in, and I think it was Seven Hills, but I'm not positive. Where there are blocks that are owned by different vineyards, right? So it wasn't just them. And as we're driving through to get to their block, I was looking around and I'm like, how do these guys not have netting when they haven't harvested yet? But the grapes are super ripe. Do they not have a bird problem here? And we get stopped and we're looking around and I'm just like, I have a question and it might be a dumb one. Sorry, I'm the new person here. Why do you guys not net your grapes? And the owner, Jesus is his name. Jesus says, did you see the white vans on the way in? Did you see that white van? I said, yeah.
Oh, I've heard about this.
It's the coolest thing.
No.
Okay, explain it. Yeah.
The people
really
who
cool.
own the vineyard, the blocks of vines, they combine and they pay for 2 falcons.
Well, that's fucking sick.
It's so awesome to patrol the vines.
Such a good business to have.
And so the white van that he was talking about was a falconer who was, and I saw the guy standing out there, but I just figured he was somebody checking on his vines or whatever. And sure enough, there's a
I'm about to get
falcon
into the falcon business.
out there patrolling the vineyards. And I don't
That's
know. I mean,
genius.
the way it was told to me, which to me, this is incredible, but I'm sure there are people skilled enough to do it. These falcons are trained to be aggressive enough with the starlings that they will leave and not want to come back, but not actually kill them or like hurt them like that.
Really?
And I don't know how you teach them to be that right level of aggressive, but that's supposedly what
Falcons
they
are
do.
amazing
Cool.
birds. Amazing.
Well, this
birds.
whole entire huge massive vineyard is patrolled by.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Huh.
Oh my God. That's sick. Yeah.
All those plastic nettings that aren't being made.
30? We good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that falcon idea is fucking awesome.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long those plastic nets are good for. Or
Is this
what's
a new
done to them
business
when they're
plan?
done, but
You're just gonna start raising falcons and be like, "Hey, I'll bring my
Yeah,
falcon
I'll bring
to
my
your
falcon.
vineyard."
Yeah.
seriously,
There's
though,
like
if you were a
40
falconer-
wineries around here. I could
Right?
fucking just swoop up some money, literally.
I mean, how could you not? It would be extremely lucrative, I would think.
I could have
at
like
least
10
There's-
falcons.
Yeah.
And
another
just send my
business.
people out.
Yeah.
for 1 month out of the year anyway.
Should call
Yeah.
Big Boy from Outcast because that's what he's on now. Big Boy from Outcast?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a falconer now. He is a
What?
falcon. with-
That's seriously like
Yeah,
what
that's
he's
what
doing
he's
with his
doing.
life.
Andre 3000 is playing the fucking wooden flute, and Big
What is
Boy
happening?
is a falcon
Ner.
guy. Falconer. I don't know what they're called, but he's a
There's
falconer.
a term for
I mean,
it.
He's a
if I made
falcon-
enough
he's a falcon
money-
trainer. Like he trains falcons.
That's so
incredible.
cool.
Yeah, it's
If I
all
made
these
enough
guys.
money to just do whatever for a living and I
Yeah.
could just I'd be like, sure, I want to learn how to train falcons. Let's do it.
yeah,
That's
Wait,
awesome.
this is a genius idea.
it's sick. All right, that's dope.
I learned a lot of things that day, but that was my favorite thing.
Yeah,
That was so
Huh.
cool.
oh, that's amazing. Well, I think we concluded our time. We didn't get into the Pinot Noir John Sebastiano from Storm Wines, but that's for our Patreon people, and they get to experience that with us.
Yeah.
So that's going to be awesome. So thank you guys for listening. Welcome to the Bung Pod. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bree.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Cheers.